If you have ever received a PRO check from BMI, ASCAP, PRS, SOCAN, or whatever performing rights organization you belong to, you know it can be an underwhelming experience. And if you are trying to build a catalog and work with music libraries in the sync licensing world, it's always an adventure when that quarterly check arrives or appears in your bank account. Well, today we're going to talk with someone who experienced a shocking change in his PRO payment this month, taking a giant leap towards the next step in his sync licensing journey. How did he do it? Well, we are going to find out as we talk today with the Fingaz himself, Mr. Marcus Manderson. Good to have you here, man. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Glad to be here. Glad to be back. Glad to have another chat with you and share more about the sync and trailer journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, welcome to the Make Music Income podcast. We talk about all kinds of changing things that are happening all the time in music income itself, including music licensing, certainly, like we're going to talk about today, music distribution and marketing, which this is going to apply to all the things, music royalties, being a music artist, gigs, having a lot of gigs is making you more money as an artist. Music teaching and sheet music, having more sheet music out there. The more you have out, the more likely you'll make. Church music, really any way we can find to make music income we talk about on this channel. And today we are talking about the need for speed. No, the need for more and how important it is. And Marcus and I are learning this as we go in this whole world of music licensing. So my name is Eric Copeland, and I've been working full-time in music for 30 years, not necessarily licensing. That's only come up in the past 6 or 7, but mainly as a music producer and a composer and arranger for people. And this show is sponsored by the Getting in Sync course. And I've got a picture of it. It's going to cover my face, but that's okay. I won't cover Marcus's face. I'll just cover my face. And the Getting in Sync course, which is now out. And do you know we even have a class that meets each week on Fridays where I go through the course module by module and take questions and even add on stuff. So this is a very apropos course for what we're talking about today. This is my experience getting into sync and how I got in there and how I've done what I've done. So we're doing a special Zoom class on Fridays. If you'd like to get into that, go to makemusicincome.com/learn. And you can register for the course there. You can take all the stuff. All our free and paid stuff is there. And check out the description below, as always, for more information. And sign up for the Getting in Sync course so you can come to the Getting in Sync class. And we can. It's a fun time for the students who are part of that. And it's a fun time for me because I get to talk and I get to show the course, but I also get to kind of explain a little deeper. So as always, I hope this podcast and everything is helping you make the music you love and make music income. And so now, with all that out of the way, let's get into today's podcast. And Marcus, the last week, I guess the cat is kind of out of the bag now as far as BMI and everything. But let's talk about our weeks here and tell me a little bit about your week since about this time last week is when you got an interesting call from someone. You want to tell that story?
Or my wife. So I was at work where I literally am right now. And my wife, she texted me, and I don't remember if I was in a meeting, and she texted me a number, and she was like, BMI just deposited this into your account. And I was like, what is this? Because the last number that I got was nowhere near what this one was. I won't say exactly what it was, but it was.
So are we talking 3 or 4 figures?
4 figures, close to 5, and it's the last one was like 2 figures. So
2 figures.
So
you went from 2 to almost 5 figures in one. Had you made before the 2-figure one? Had you had 3-figure BMI checks before?
It's always been like 40 to maybe. I don't recall ever getting like $100. in the BMI
Wow.
statement.
Wow.
So
Something
I
has
was like,
happened. We're going to have to
yeah,
talk
like I
about.
have to get home to see, like, did they make a mistake? Did they confuse me with someone else? Or, but I got home and I had an idea what I thought it was. I work with one library where I did a couple albums for them last year, and I did one album in May, and they reached out to me in December, and they were like, the album you did in May is basically on this whole season of Catfish. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. I just don't know what that translates to
Yeah. And
monetarily
Catfish
wise.
is on what station?
Catfish is on MTV.
Okay. So
I
a
believe
cable,
MTV.
a cable network.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what that would translate to financial wise. I was just like, I heard of placements all the time. Sometimes they're like 1 cent, and then sometimes they're like $10, $20. And so I was suspecting that this would have been the catalyst for sort of such a huge jump. And then when I looked at the statement, like sure enough, that was the majority of the income for that. And there were some others for like the love and hip hop reality TV shows type things, some things on like I think Bravo, but that was sort of the majority. So I'm like, yes, I want to do more of that and see if we can keep it consistent or at least get it to increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So what has that done to your mind over the past week as far as, I mean, when I get a win, you know, like a big win, like some recent big placements for me on, I haven't seen what NFL on CBS is going to pay yet because that'll probably be next one. But mostly everything has been like other countries and reality shows in Germany and stuff like that, you know, which has paid. And a Hulu movie where I had 30 seconds of a Christmas song in there or something. And then this big Netflix Love is Blind placement. But it's all, what it makes me start thinking is, ooh, I want more of that. How do I get more of that? And I don't even know how you get more of that because it's kind of the luck of the draw. You just get lucky. You didn't go, oh, I'm going to write these songs. I'm going to send them to this library so I can be on Catfish and make 4 figures on a BMI check. So tell me what's been going on in your mind since this happened and what you're doing next for this.
It's basically business as usual, just making music because it's the irony. You know how they say like luck comes in threes or sometimes bad luck comes in threes. But yesterday, 2 days ago, I found out from another library I work with that we got a placement on the Survivor promo for the season 46 season finale, which aired yesterday. So the promo was playing for the last week, and I found out 2 days ago. And of course, was able to talk about it yesterday. So it's just been the catalyst. And I found out from another library also yesterday that one of the songs I have in their catalog, they got some interest from a client. So I just keep making music, business as usual, keep doing the metadata, sending the stems. And you know, I've heard in my travels of these like epic placements, people getting 5 figures, 6 figures from just one placement. And usually that's more on the ad side, maybe an upfront sync fee. So that's sort of where I want to go next. Yeah. So I know it can happen.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. That's the whole point of the podcast today. So anything else that's been interesting? I mean, that's a lot. I mean, to find out those 2 big things, that is a talk about a proof of concept to the wife. My wife is always like, so when's the big one coming? You keep saying. She doesn't say that actually because my producing career supported us and still supports us for 20 something years, and I've had 6-figure years of that, and I'm super happy and thankful for that, and still thankful for all the music incomes that allow us to live here in Florida and live a nice life. So, but anything else this week? You've been just working on. When we get into talking about stuff, I want to find out about how you work and when you work and how you produce and how much you produce per week and all that kind of stuff, because that's what I want to talk about today, because I think people watching this podcast are going to be going, all right, you say I need to make more music. How the heck do I do that? And I work a full-time job. Well, Marcus is at work right now. He's literally work. I'll go in about 2 hours. I'm going to get a car and drive across town and teach until midnight. So I decided to go get that income. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Anything else that's been going on that's of note music-wise this week?
That's about, well, I made two albums in 2 days for instrumental albums for two libraries. So, like I said, business as usual. And in the middle of all that, we like living life. Our daughter is graduating next week at the time of this recording from high school. So, we're preparing for a graduation and graduation party.
You
So,
don't look like
I'm
a
really,
man who has a child that old.
and I'll be the joyous age of 40 this year. So,
All right. Well,
yeah.
I'm a little bit ahead of you. So, what kind of albums were those that you produced this week that you made in 2 days?
One of them is a custom album for a TV show, so they were looking for instrumentals that they're going to send to their roster of artists. That was more like hip hop style music. So instrumentals I usually do 2 minutes or less, and then the other one, this one was 90-second cues. Some of them might have even been like only a minute. Aimed at This is all percussion, aimed at sort of the fun like animation type stuff for some films that we know are in the works at some big companies this year. So hopefully some of those land. And that album was actually for a company that did land the Survivor trailer this week. So I'm gonna do some more for them because that was the first track I sent to them, and they landed it within like a month.
Cool. Well, my week has been, you know what? This has been a very chill week for me on purpose. Last week, I had a lot going on. I did a 3-hour live session in Nashville on Wednesday last week on the YouTube channel at school, so the students could see it, and also for my audience could see it, and also ran the session, and also had to make sure they were doing all the charts, and also had clients I was talking to. So that was a stressful day. And then I also investigated more teaching opportunities this last week, and that wore my brain out. Plus, we are getting ready to move. We're going to have to. We're going to buy a house, and so that is all going on. We're looking for the right house. We've got a couple. We're not like under the gun, but got to get it done. But what I've come to kind of a realization about my teaching, not just my teaching on my channel, but my teaching at schools, and that is that I do like to teach, and I teach what I like to teach. This is going around in circles, but what I'm trying to say here is that I've come to a realization that I don't think that academia, which is something that I was, since getting my master's, I looked at maybe going and teaching in schools, and not just like technical schools, but like schools, colleges that are very serious. But I think I've come to the realization finally, and maybe a lot of people had come to this realization before I did, but I've come to the realization that that's not the path for me because I'm not traditional enough. I think to make it in the world of academia, of college music, you really have to be that kind of person. And I ain't that kind of person. I've been too long in the studio world, in the Nashville world, in the production. I've been the boss of everything. It's hard to not be the boss when you've been the boss the whole time. Right now, you and I, to a certain extent at the job I work at, we work for a boss, and I have been the boss for 25 years in my business, and had no other boss really. And so people want to boss me, and I'll take bossing. I'm good at being boss. I'll be a team player, but at the same time, I think I intimidate people a little bit too much, and especially in academia where they see this person coming in who's been this free agent producer and studio person, and that doesn't fit with their professory kind of focused on the way academia is, and you can't really veer from that. You have to teach it this way, and it has to go A, B, C, D. And I love all the academia stuff. I love music history. I love music theory. I love all of it. Music composition, orchestration. I'd love to take it all again. But I don't think that they are wanting someone like me, or you maybe. I don't know what your background is in academia, but those of us who made it without a college degree, and then we went back and got a college degree, I don't think that's what they're looking for. They want those people who came up in academia, and it's if you know what I mean. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Have you ever been in that world, that academia music world?
Yeah, so it's different because I can compare undergrad to graduate, and undergrad was very much like you were explaining. The school was great. I went to a music school, but it was very um, formatted, familiar. For those who've been to college. Our daughter's going to college, so she's gonna love the experience. The experience was great. I met my wife there, so of course I wouldn't take that back. The best investment ever. That was at James Madison University here in Virginia. I was a music industry major, but then to contrast that, when I went for my master's, that was at Full Sail University, which is a whole different experience because it's all creatives.
I
And
could
it's
teach at Full Sail.
yeah, Full
I
Sail
could
is
I could go there and teach. That's
and
just like about several miles from
what
where
we do.
we're kind of a
Yeah,
small Full Sail, the one place I work at. But
yeah.
yeah, so you went to Full
So
Sail and got your master's there.
got the masters, and so that's a different experience because it's all creatives. It's you can be, so when you enter a arena like that, even visiting, even when I still visit, it's like, oh man, they got the gaming thing. They just released new videos like editing and just like
And you
it's
got
a whole
nice
different
people
vibe.
like Dave Croft teaching
Dave
there,
Croft is
and
teaching there, and
so
people working on the biggest projects in the world that are alum. So it's
it's a different.
so
That's different than what I'm talking
that's
about.
different.
Versus,
Yeah.
like when I went to UCF and got my master's, that was even my super talented music professor. He was very everything was every I was dotted, every T was crossed. There was not much like that he put up to chance or ear. I mean, he has a great ear, and he knows everything, but everything has to be by the book. And the dean was like that. Everybody is like that pretty much, and
Yeah.
I guess I don't fit that very well.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
which is good though, because it's made me have this realization about it's time. I need to concentrate on what I do best. And I think this is something that will help anybody who's watching this video. Make sure that you don't bend too far to make yourself into this person that you think the industry wants you to be. In other words, if sync is something you want to explore, it doesn't mean you have to be exactly like everybody else in sync. Lord knows, my whole course is about how different I am than everyone else, and how different I've done sync than even maybe Marcus does it, or and then Dave Croft does it, then Jesse does it. I certainly am different from all those than the way Clint does it. Everybody is doing it a little different than me. But I'm in a different place in my life than a lot of my contemporaries on YouTube and stuff. But I talked to the president of my BMG library yesterday, and we had a good long talk, and told him what I'm really wanting to do and focus on really ramping up production with my Nashville team, and that's going to be my secret that we talk about today. It's kind of something I'm calling Positive Spin Max. Positive Spin Songs is my production company for Sync, but Positive Spin Max is like, let's go. Let's, like they say in the new Deadpool movie, let's go, and we're going to go and really get going. And that's what I want to talk about today, is really getting going, getting back to what I do best, which is running about 10 to 20 projects at a time. And that's kind of what my whole career has been. So, well, let's get into this. Let's quit pussyfooting around here and jump right into this. And I'm going to just keep changing this title. But what I want to talk about first is it's a long game. And we know that. And eventually that long game can pay off. And you've seen it. I mean, we've waited. You've waded through two-figure checks. I've seen two-figure checks and three-figure checks in the past few years. I don't know if I've ever had a four-figure check. My BMI goes way back, because I joined BMI in the 90s, and then through the 2000s, I don't think I made much. But then when I had a band, I put a band of session players together and made some jazz music, and we have lots of jazz albums out as Player A Jazz. That's one of my brands. But it actually, I did radio, and we had a top 30 Billboard jazz hit. And that really brought me a good bit of money through not just BMI, but Sound Exchange and other places too, and sales through CD Baby. And so that was 5 figures, probably what that made all told over time since 2011. And so that's where I first saw any BMI money. I saw it from radio, and not from television. Maybe some stuff got on TV, but it was mostly from radio play. And that's the game I was playing there. When I found out about Sync, then I was like, oh, well, this is another way to make income. And I found out about Sync way before the pandemic. I found about it back in 2016, 2017. That's when I said, oh, okay, I can see a change that I could make here and get away from music producing only for clients and make my own music and put it into libraries and things like that. So I'm through the waiting for consistent things. I'm seeing things all the time. You're probably seeing things all the time. Where are you in the long game right now? I mean, we obviously know that you got paid Friday night. They were partying at Marcus' house. They were out eating on Friday night, I would imagine. I don't know, but anyway, where are you in the waiting game?
So I was in the in between spot of creating music and submitting it to libraries or the metadata, submitting it to opportunities, and seeing some things here and there trickle in on the statements. Like I said, this is the biggest one I've seen. I think the next one might tell the story of how consistent it is, because it could drop back down to 40. You just never know. On the sync side, where I have seen some of the bigger opportunities is composing directly for clients like museums, and I've done some independent films, did music for Disneyland theme park attraction. So that's more one-to-one, custom music up front. Yeah. So that's more of the consistent, if I can make that consistent, but that's more of the almost a guaranteed, you're going to get paid this amount for this project. Whereas with Sync, I can make a song and not know, it might not land for 10 years or it might not ever land. So it's the sort of the unknown.
Yeah, it really is unknown, and people need to know that. It's you even your library. I mean, the fact that your library told you about this one thing, I guess that's because it's an ad and the ad pays up front, maybe more.
So cool. So the trailer one for it's interesting. The owner of the library sent me a text message, and he was like, which is another reason I enjoy working with libraries, where I can text an owner directly or call them or get on the phone with the person, and not like an info@library.com like AI. But he texted me, and he was like, he shared the clip of the trailer. He's like, this sounds like the music you just sent me for like a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if he was using some detective service or TuneFind or something to find it, but I was like, that is my music. And so he was like, let me just confirm, with the team, if this is, legit placement. And a couple hours later, he's like, yeah, this is your music. We got a placement on the trailer. So,
wow. So does that count more as an advertising payout thing to the library, or is that just another sync for BMI, or both? Do you know?
So for me, that I don't know. I'm going to wait to see if it shows up. And that's the other thing. Like, it probably won't be on a statement for, if it is a BMI thing, a statement for 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3, maybe another 9 months. So I don't know, since it's a promo for a show that's on a network, but it's not within the actual show. So I haven't been on that side of things yet. I've seen stuff from music that's been in the show, and that shows up with BMI. But for the trailer for the show, the library, this I haven't been paid for yet, but he told me what he thinks the payout will be. So I'm guessing that's more upfront sync fee.
Survivor's CBS, right?
Survivor is CBS, season 46, which I didn't even know they had 46 seasons.
Yeah, really. 46. It's been on that long. Well, no, that's because they've done several years. Yeah. Well, that is fantastic, and these are the kind of wins that you can get, but you can't win if you don't play. And one of the things about this whole deal is you have to play, and you have to play a lot. It's not unlike gambling a little bit, that you just have to keep throwing a lot in there, because there's a lot that will lose, that will never get heard, that no one will ever find, no one will ever see. And that's hard for a lot of people. The people, especially the Tamara Bubbles and the people I talk to, they ain't willing to play that game. They want every song being heard. They want every song being used, and versus the Jessies and everybody else who says, hey, put it all in there, and some songs are going to sit on the shelf and never get used. Well, there's some people who can't deal with that. Some people watching this podcast go, I don't want to deal with that. That's I'm not going to have my music be never heard by someone, that's dumb. But those people are likely. Then that means you got to hustle every single song yourself, and good luck with that. Because I don't even want to do that, and I'm trying to make more contacts, but to be honest, I do too many things, and I want to do too many other things other than music, and go and just chill and live my chill life, and go out and go to Disney and go to the beach and go do all these things. And you got to be ready to hustle if you want to do the short game. And that's the other thing we should talk about here, is that it can also be a short game a little bit with sync, because you can develop something, get it right out, and get it right in. Didn't you have an experience like this recently, that you did something and got something right through?
Yeah, well, I'll share what got me back into sync around 2021. It was the short game, and I thought that's all I needed. Where I started working with a library, and they had sent a brief for a BMF campaign on Stars, looking for hip hop music, and I made like 5 beats, and then they were like, the music supervisor's loving your music, send more. So I made 5 more, and then they were like, send more, they're loving your stuff. So I ended up sending like 25 total, and next thing I know, that music was placed all across that season of that show, within like a month. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do this every month. Like, I can do a beat a day, or I can do 2 or 3 a day. And then for the next year after that, no placements, nothing. I was focused on this one library. I didn't look at any other libraries. I didn't really look into sync, because they got me, placements. I got paid. It took 9 months to get paid, but they told me what the pay was going to be, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this, and that's extra income. Then 9 months, nothing. And then I was like, okay, I got to start diversifying the sort of music portfolio and look at some other libraries, and that's what I started doing. But that was the short game, got me back into sync, and then it's like, okay, now I got to shift my mind to more of the longer game play.
Because usually it is a very long game, but every once in a while you get into these possibilities that you didn't see coming. Like, look, Christmas was this way for me last year, when in I guess October or November, two of my libraries came and said, we need Christmas dramedy. And one was for a specific show. I don't think I got in that show. It's for an ABC show. So I did 2, 3, or 4 things for them, and then I had so much fun. I made some more, and I went to my BMG library. I said, "What do you think?" And he says, "Yeah, we'll take them." And he says, "It's so close to Christmas. Just give them to me. I'll put them up." And they were up. Yeah. I got them done. I submitted them. They were up in a week on BMG and on the library, and I had at least 20 to 30 placements. Now they're mostly in Europe, but and so I won't see them. I don't know when I'll see them. I didn't see them we got paid for fourth quarter, so I expected to maybe see some on fourth quarter, but I just talked to my library guy yesterday. He says, no, it takes a while to matriculate back to BMI from Europe, and so it might take an extra BMI session or a BMI statement or 2. So we'll see how that all goes in. But Christmas is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, every year they get the same songs and use them. I think music supervisors just like put that in a place, and they use it every year when they need something, because I have the same songs been used 3 or 4 years in a row. But sometimes it can be a short game. Sometimes you can throw stuff up to your library and they work fast. Most of the time, that's not the way it is. I've had albums that I submitted that didn't even get into the online for people to even find for months, if not 6 months, even though I got the albums to them and stems and everything. So you just never know. But sometimes it can be short. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can ensure quality in sync, and maybe how you work to make sure you're giving them quality music. I think this is more important than ever. This is going to be a mainly AI-free podcast today, but I think AI is, if it's usable now, it's pretty low quality, and it may be more quality in the future. Who knows? But I'm not just talking about AI. I'm talking about other people you go up against and you do things to. I do have people, libraries, even telling me, you don't have to use real players. You don't have to do all this kind of stuff. You can do all the samples. I believe that, but I also believe that what makes me different is I do use role players a lot of times. And I think that is that little extra bit of quality that makes me have luck and makes my music. And really, it's, as you'll see in a minute, it's my secret to doing more. How do you deal with putting quality into the stuff that you're sending to these libraries, and how does that go?
For me, it is the sounds that I'm using. A lot of them now are like more premium, higher end. Sometimes they're layered with other premium libraries, and sometimes they're layered with the stock sounds. I use Logic Pro. Sometimes they're layered with the stock sounds. I've been using the Logic Drummer, which I guess is sort of AI, but usually layer that with some like personal drums or even with other drum kits. And I think having those high quality sounds, getting those strings from Spitfire Audio or Audio Imperia, using the percussion from Heaviosity and the especially on the trailer stuff, the Keep Force, like that's like go to trailer. Like I can make a whole trailer track using just Keep Force stuff. But finding these high quality libraries, which surprisingly I had some of them. AVA Music Group is a company. I used to enter a lot of contests, and I had a lot of their software that I won in a contest I never used for like 2 or 3 years. And then I started getting into trailer music, and people were like, "Oh, you should check out AVA Music Group." And I was like, "I think I have some of their stuff." And I went back and I like found the stuff I had. I was like, "Oh yeah, I can use this stuff." But it was just collecting dust for years because I never was into. I was doing more of the hip hop, pop stuff. And when I started getting into trailer music, I was like, "Oh, I have some of these sounds already." And then I would just save up for Black Friday deals or reach out to the companies directly and say, "Hey, I'll do some reviews. I'll post on YouTube. I'll do a demo for you if you send me, a copy of your library for free." And that's how I got a lot of my libraries, from contests, from reaching out to them, and then last and probably the lowest is the Black Friday deals. But
I do those every year. Look, Orchestral Tools has become one of my favorite libraries as well.
Insane. I was just, you know what? I was just looking. There's a group on Facebook, a Trailer Composers group, and they reminded me of there's a lot of free stuff that a lot of these companies have, Spitfire Audio, but Orchestral Tools, their Sign Player and their Layers series, just high quality free. Like, so right now there's almost, even if you go back to Spitfire Audio Labs, I know they're not doing any of the free stuff in there anymore. Project Sam, the free orchestra 1 and 2, these are, Heaviosity has a Foundation series that's free. These are like premium free sounds from some of the libraries that are.
Well, even the free BBCSO.
BBCSO is great.
Contact, I mean, Discover Orchestra. It's one mic way up high, so you're just getting like a room sound of these sounds. You're not really, but it's good to. I mix those sometimes with things, and if I just need a broad mic of a string section or woodwind section or something, it works. But. So quality is job one. The way I do quality, and this is not a secret. I talk about it all the time, and I showed you last week on this channel how I do it when I did a 3-hour session with the players. And if you watch that, you'll see how amazing they are in just seconds. They are whipping up parts that sound like they've known the song for years and been practicing it. That's their job as session players. And so that's, to be honest, my first 2 albums I got signed. My first one was all session players, all pro singers, and it was pop, and it still is doing great. I delivered that, I believe, in late 2020 or early 2021, and just in October 2023 is when I got that placement on Love is Blind, that big kind of logo placement that I just got paid for. Not very much money because it's Netflix. You've got to, I mean, we're not going to get into that today, but the reason I got into the library and that song eventually was found by somebody is because it was quality played, quality sung, and quality mixed. And that, to me, that's one of my secrets is that I'm a higher quality than a lot of people. And so if you want to have success, quality is job one. However, the next part is probably the more important part. As long as you have quality, the next part, let me type this right. The next part that's the most important, I think, and why we're doing this show today is quantity. And this is really where I want to talk about if you're out there and you've been starting this, or you're thinking about starting this, or you've started down the path and you've got 50, 100 songs, they're not even in the libraries yet. My first and best advice would be to put together as much as you can at the highest quality, of course, and to just be sending it to your libraries and continually sending. I'll talk about how I get stuff done. How do you, and I'm sure a lot of people out there watching this, like you, work another job other than music. So and this is a 40-hour job, 5 days a week that you work at?
5 days a week. And then the commute is about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Wow.
One way. So yeah, it's
so
interesting.
Where is the time to create? And before we talk about this, how many songs do you have out with how many libraries are you in?
Way too many.
That you feed regularly?
Regularly, I would say probably 7.
See, so that's quantity right there, just in the number of libraries that you feed, because I only have 4 or 5. And I really only feed 1 or 2 just because the other ones aren't doing anything. And so I've stopped of feeding them. But how much do you put in, let's say, in a given month to your 7 libraries?
So it's the ones that reach out to me. So now I'm at the point where, like the 2 that I did last weekend, those libraries reach out to me and say, hey, can you
Are these
work on
briefs?
this? So these are albums that they are putting out. So I do chase briefs also, but all of my placements have been from albums and not directly for briefs.
Requests for albums, basically.
Requests for either full albums that I create or that I can get a track or 2, or I did 6 for one particular album, which is basically almost a full album. So album placements with libraries. And when I say 7, that's a combination of sync and trailer only. There are some companies that only focus on trailer music.
Okay. So, all right. Now, we know that you are putting these things out and you get requests from libraries. When are you doing this, Marcus? Where is the time? How many children do you have, Marcus?
We have 2. Our daughter's graduating next week from high school, so she's 17, and our son is 16. So life is lifing.
Wow.
They're not little anymore. They're practically.
They're not little anymore, but I'm telling you, it doesn't necessarily get easier as they get older. You think out there that children are easier when I'm telling you, 20s aren't that great either with adult children, but. So let's just say that you've got all day, you're driving, terrible commute, and then you're coming home. Are you a late at nighter? Are you weekends? Where are we getting this quantity done, and how much would you say you're getting done a month?
Late at night. So I usually get home, spend time with family, walk the dog. Usually get into music mode around 9 or 10 o'clock until 1 or 2 in the morning, and then wake up. So what does sacrifice is, or what I do sacrifice is sleep. For better or worse, I don't suggest not getting sleep. You need sleep. Studies have shown.
Time do you have to get up?
It's just usually 5.
Oh my Lord.
45.
So you're getting a 4 or 5 hours.
4 hours. I need 4 hours minimum. I would love to get up to 6 hours, but I just don't. There are some days, like usually once a week, maybe between Friday and Saturday, where I just crash. Like I don't get up until like 11 in the morning, and I get so I have like that one day every week or 2 where I sleep for like 10 hours. But other than that, it's it's the chasing the music thing. So I'm up making music, usually till 1 or 2 in the morning, and that's either everything I make is either for a brief or for an album, or for an artist that I want to work with for sync, but it's mostly for sync and trailers.
Gotcha. So you're making this at night. No work on the weekends? Do you spend time with family only on weekends? Do you ever take time off?
Music on weekends also. So it's like we might all be in the same room, but I have a music room at home. With my keyboard, you have a Yamaha motif, the OG motif, and like my screen setup and everything. But then I have a portable keyboard that I can carry around the house.
Like a Motif 6?
Motif 7. I had the Motif 7, the classic
I had a Motif 6.
2001.
I had the 6, so that's cool.
Yep. The OG, not the ES, not the.
It's probably got a killer keyboard on it. I bet it's smooth as butter. That keyboard was very great playing, and they don't make good feeling keyboards anymore. Not synth keys. The last good synth key I had was a Korg M3, which was just butter, and I wish I'd never sold it. but I wanted this capabilities with the native instrument stuff. I wanted to be able to do
Yeah,
all
I
that
do.
stuff.
I
And
want that.
so I sold that for this, which was a good move work wise as far as getting
Hmm.
work done. Okay, so let's stay on topic. You work at night, you sacrifice sleep, you work some on the weekends. It's just your anytime you're not with family or working, you are making music. That's just your
Yep.
jam.
And the goal is one track a day, usually 5 to 7 a week. Sometimes, like this past weekend, over 2 days, I did. I've done an album of 10 like instrumental cues, 90-second ish cues in a day. This past weekend, I did two albums, basically one album a day, one Saturday, one Sunday.
So,
So
but is it usually like an album a week is the goal at
yeah,
worst?
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Or depending on what I'm doing, if I'm doing trailers, because that takes a lot more time than making like instrumental for like sync. A trailer track could take me like 1 to 2 days if I focus on that. So, um, but an album a week is sort of a good
And
way to
when we say an album, are we saying 10 songs?
10 if it's instrumental. If I'm working with vocalists, I only do five.
I'm starting to get requests for just for 5 song albums.
Yeah,
They're saying it does not have to be 10 anymore. It can be 5, it can be 4, it
yeah.
can be 7, it can be 6. It used to be, the rule of 10. We need
10,
10
12.
songs,
Yeah.
but it's not that way anymore
Yeah.
because I mean it's almost like the Spotify approach. As long as we get a few songs to put new into our library and in a certain thing, it doesn't have to be 7 songs because each of those four to 5 songs could have 3 versions or more versions. And
That's
so
the other thing. And going back to the quality question, it's the one track that got on the trailer for Survivor, that was one track that was on an album of I think 10 tracks. So I only did one track for that album. So if the quality is there for the track and it makes it on the album, it could be like the breakaway song on that album or that project. But I think I'm gonna go down the 5 song route now, even with instrumentals, unless I know a library specifically just wants 10. Um, and then if you have five, you have two albums now if you make 10.
yeah, this recent one I'm turning in now to a library. I was going for 10, but I got to 8 and I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. And
Me
I
too.
was like, I think that's enough because I'd done several albums of this style, and I was just like, I want to go on to some other things. Um, well, here's how I get stuff done. I have a radically different schedule than you do. And a radically different family life with no small or teenage children. As a matter of fact, both my children are now in their 30s. My daughter is 30 and my son is 39. He lives in Nashville, so I get up every day and work on music in this beautiful little room, looking out into the beautiful weather here in Florida and to the pool. And it's just, and so I wake up and I start working on whatever strikes me. And usually that is music or something. I do have clients, so I have to do work for clients. I've made a music video today, but I got that done in like an hour. I was like, woohoo. And so I was able to put some songs up to another library. I was able to send something to another library. I was able to work on a mix for something else. And so I have time to do this because I have now it's like working four jobs. I
Yeah.
literally have 4 jobs because I go over at 3:30 or 4 to this school and teach online classes right now, but usually teach the nighttime classes. And then I don't get done there till 11:30. So I come home. I don't get to bed till 2, but I can sleep till 8 or 9. So I need to get sleep. I always did actually. Even in Nashville, I was my own boss, and so I worked. I was a night person too. Then I would stay up till 2 or 3 because that's when it was quietest, and I wasn't as much of a morning person in my 30s and 40s, but I've become one in my 50s, and so I get up or I would stay up late and work too, and but I find now that I get up earlier, like if I could go to bed at 12, I could get up at 7 and start working, and I think the morning hours are brighter and fresher. Now, if you have a day gig, you can't do that. And
Yeah.
I almost said yes to a day gig recently, and that would mean my music production would go way down because I wouldn't have much time. Because at night, if I come home after a day gig, my wife and I are going to hang out, and then by the time that she's done hanging out, I may only have an hour or two, and then I gotta get some sleep. I'm not sacrificing sleep like you are. I'm not willing to do that as much these days. But I would say, my goal at the beginning of the year, and if you're doing a 10 song album, let's just say you're averaging 10 songs a week, that's 520 songs a year. And that was my goal this year is 520. I don't think of 500 songs. I don't think I'm going to get there, but it's because I've done some other things. I wanted to do a course on this, and so I've taken some time to do that. And I'm just loafing around sometimes. But my loafing is not like most people's loafing. My loafing still gets, probably 10 to 20 songs done in a week or two. But it just depends on when I put my nose to the grindstone. And my yearly goal is somewhat like yours. My goal now to finish that. Well, we'll talk about our goals here in a little while, but that's kind of how I get stuff done. Is I have from basically 8 a.m. to 3 ish to work on music, on anything I want to work on, because I don't have anybody here. Nobody's here. My wife works during the day. My daughter either sleeps or works during the day, and so that's all that's here. And so I have a quiet home with only cats to bother me, and I can get a lot done if I can juggle correctly with my clients and my channel. I've really started to batch content and do one video a week, only one, unless I'm trying to, like the last week or 2 weeks ago, I was trying to push the course and stuff like that. So I kind of did a 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row, and I do lives. I was going to do a live today. I'm going to do it tomorrow instead, because once I do it, I'm done. I said all I want to say. I write up a little script for it. There's people involved. I've got an audience, and you see that I'm seeing this more and more. I think we're getting away from you have to make a 8-minute video that's filled with lots of flash and stuff. And I don't think people need that as much. I think they'd almost rather put this on in the background and listen to you and me chat about things and find out stuff. And it's especially good for podcasts, but it's becoming more popular. But all that said, I get stuff done by having time to get it done in the days. And I have more plans and goals for how to increase my output, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Here's one thing I want to talk about, because I think more is more. So let's compare. I had a 3-figure. Now, you're not averaging 4-figure checks yet. We don't know if that's going to be a case. It could dramatically come down into the 3 figures next time. It could stay in the 4 figures and be lower. It could be more, depending on other things that hit. But let's compare. One reason I want to talk to you today is because I wanted to compare how many songs I have in libraries to how many you have, and the way I'm approaching this. And number one way is I know that I've only got about tops 200 songs in libraries. How many songs do you have in your libraries?
You know what? That's something I should write down. I I might be around 200, 250.
I thought you were closer. For some reason, I was thinking you were at 1,000.
So I have 1,720 something tracks in disco. Most of the tracks I have in disco are not signed to libraries. They are what I pitch directly to briefs. Some of them are for libraries. Most of the tracks I have in libraries aren't on disco. So that's actually because they want Dropbox, or they just wanted to upload it to their server. So I actually have almost a split of tracks I keep in my catalog. And then if a library wants to sign it, great. So I have a lot of songs that I could pitch, but then I pitch up to libraries, and then like the day after a library accepts it, I get a brief where I was like, I just had that song that could have made this brief.
It's a tight walk to walk that. How much do I put in libraries versus how much do I keep free for independent deals? And this is something I've been trying to do that. Like I'm just saying this is non-exclusive. I'm just keeping it non-exclusive. I'm keeping this close to the chest, and I'm going to only going to respond to or send these out because either I don't know if a library wants it. Sometimes libraries just don't want it. I mean, do you ever get that where you send it to a library and they go, that's not what we're looking for right now, or you ever get that happen?
Yeah, I get no's all the time, and of course updates and changes, or can you change the sound, or move this sound, or make these edits, and then sometimes it's a no, and then I if I know the library, like personally, the owner, I ask like, what can make it better? What could, what would you change this? And they might say, change the sound or do that. And then they accept it. Or I could send the song to another library and they accept it. So my goal is to get, have the song be placed somewhere, or be pitchable somewhere. So when I make something, it's either have it placed in the library, send it to a brief, but have an intention for the music that I'm making as opposed to just making uh, something just to make something.
So how many tracks? So you're thinking 200 to 300 you have in libraries right now? That's as
I
far
would
as album,
say
not albums, but songs.
songs, 200 300, including like instrumentals and things with vocals, and then 1700 total in disco, but I would cut that probably in half or even thirds because some songs, if it's with vocals, I also have the instrumental, so it counts that. Some of them I have different versions, like a TV mix. But I would maybe cut it in half to be conservative. So I would say 800 or so um, in
Now, a
disco.
lot of people watching this would say, "Gee, Marcus, why don't you just put those all into libraries and not hold them? Tell me why you don't put those in libraries and keep them." I mean, I talked about it a minute ago, but
I think the plan is sort of what you mentioned earlier. I'm still figuring out the libraries that I like the music I'm making. I have some really great songs. And I want to make sure I put some music in some libraries that I've never heard from again. Years ago, I made two albums for a library. They actually didn't um, sign it, but they like have it on hold. And that was 2 years ago. And I reached out to them recently. I was like, "Are you guys?" They're like, "We want it, but we haven't really set our library up yet." So I'm trying to give them some more time. So I have a lot of music that I just make, either for potential libraries, for artists, for libraries, for sync, for briefs that I get that maybe I can't, I missed a deadline, but I want to make it because I'm seeing the same brief over and over. And of course, there's holiday music, like you mentioned earlier, that we see every year. I'm filtering out the list, and with the statement that helps that I just got from BMI, to see which libraries will be the most have the most potential for the music that I have. And now I can be like, okay, these libraries are getting me placements. They're helping to contribute to 4 or 5 figure royalty statements. Let me see if they'd be interested if I put together 5, 10 songs from what I have in my catalog and pitch it to that library. So we're sort of building the catalog. If you build it, they will come. But building it up, and then now I can curate my own.
so of the 800 tracks you have in disco, some of those are on in libraries, right? And
Yes.
and of those that are in disco, have some of those been accepted into deals? Like the trailer one, was that with a library or was that a, a direct pitch type of thing?
That was with a iPitch. So that was a direct pitch for an album called it was by Pitch Hammer Music as a library. The album was called Hybrid Adventures. It just came out like a month ago, and I think it was just a last minute deadline, where they were looking for like a couple more tracks for the album, and but it's on an album in the library. And then next thing I know, 3 weeks later, they're like, "Oh, this sounds like it got placed on CBS." I was like, "Okay, that's great."
So the other songs that are on disco that aren't in libraries, are you pitching those for briefs?
Yes. So either not exclusive briefs from libraries I work with. There's and then I go through occasionally and say, okay, how can I put out an album on my own? I want to release an album. It's probably kind of late. I wanted to release one this weekend for Memorial Day, with a singer songwriter that I work with. She has some really great emotional, like cinematic, uplifting songs, and I wanted to put together 4 or 5 tracks from hers. I still might release it on
But what do you do with
iTunes.
those to get, besides briefs that you submit them to? Is there anything else you do with all those extra tracks that are not in libraries that are sitting in your disco? And by the way, if you don't know what disco is, you keep hearing us say disco, and I know a lot of people don't know what disco
You're
is.
like, what's this?
If you happen to not know what disco is, go back and watch my disco video that I just did a few weeks ago with disco, with someone, with the head of education of disco, which is a company that it's kind of like a SoundCloud, but much nicer and much more where the sync and licensing industry wants to go listen to songs. They want to be in disco because it also works as kind of a Dropbox where they can like download things from your disco to theirs and hold it and in case they want to use it down the line. So it really works great for the industry that we're talking about, the television and music supervisor and sync agent worlds. and it's called disco.ac. So you can find a link below in this video for them if you want to go check them out, or you can go back a few videos and watch my interview with it and find out all the things they do, which is, I don't know how we would live now without disco as our things. But in disco, are you a part of the discovery thing or anything on disco where music supervisors can stumble upon songs?
Oh, yes. So there's that, and then there's also I think it's about like the multi-disco feature that they're working on, where music supervisors can like search anything that's been uploaded to disco. I believe that's the premise of it. So
That's a little bit more
there's that potential.
right?
Yeah, I haven't gotten any placements from that feature, but I do hear that it exists. Most of what I'm using Disco for is to create, curated playlists of things that I can submit to a brief or to a library. Yeah.
And with some of the artist page stuff, it's just beautiful. Some of the artist
Yeah.
page stuff you can make, the websites you can make with Disco.
You know
I
what? I also use Disco. I would say about a couple of dozen of them are not songs. I use Disco to upload videos for my courses. I use Disco for if I'm working with an artist, we have like our music on Disco. I keep our contracts and everything. So I use Disco more of like Dropbox format. I started taking stuff off Dropbox and moving it to Disco because I have the unlimited Disco plan and it's much cheaper than Dropbox. So it's a really great platform. Yeah.
So, as far as me on tracks, I'm getting around 200 tracks that I have in libraries, but I have to tell you that 100 of those are in libraries that are not doing anything. And they are also libraries that don't have perpetual agreements like BMG does, my BMG library does. But these are 3 and 4 year deals. And so likely I will be getting some stuff back. Because it's just sitting there, and there's really good stuff in some of these that I think I could pitch elsewhere and get a library working a little bit harder with them. And that's another thing you have to think about. It's not just about how many tracks. You need a lot, but you also need tracks somewhere where someone's going to search for them. And
Yeah.
if you're associated with a BMG library or with BMG itself somehow, or one of the other APM or one of the other libraries that are active, super active, then you have a better chance of being found the more tracks you have in there. So let's see. What do I want to talk about next? Let me talk about tracks just a little bit longer because we had on Friday we had a good live, and there's a fellow named Wolfgang in there, and Wolfgang,
Great name.
he is from Germany, I believe, and Wolfgang, he has 1,000 songs in libraries, and his BMI statement that came in last week was $5,000. And so I've been doing more and more types of things. I think I wanted to talk about my poll. I have a poll on YouTube. Did a couple polls on YouTube. Let me see if I can access that real quick.
I will say one thing with Disco that I really like is there is one particular it's a trailer library I work with, and I've sent them all kinds of trailer music over the last probably year. I think I've been with them for about a year and a half, and I sent them stuff for campaigns. And I just noticed yesterday where they were going back and looking, either they or maybe a client they sent stuff to, they're going back and looking through stuff that I sent over the last few months. So sometimes it just takes time for some of those clients just to, they're like, hey, we know we need this, send it tonight, but then they might not get to see it for another 2-3 weeks. Sometimes that's a little disheartening because it's like I blood, sweat, and tears creating this music before this deadline, and then you look a month later and the client never even looked at it, or the library never looked at it. Disco. So the joy and pain of Disco and tracking and metadata.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. While we're on this subject, I wanted to show off these 2 polls that I did last week, and I thought these was very telling because I did this when it was the PRO week, at least for BMI. It wasn't for ASCAP, I don't think. I think ASCAP's in a different pay schedule. But in BMI, I asked how was your income this week from PRO, from BMI, from stock music, and from streaming incomes. And 67% of the people put under $100 is what they made, and other people put different things. But here's what's ironic. Look at the the poll above it. How many songs do you have active in sync and stock libraries and streaming sites? Under 100 songs is the exact same percentage. 67% have under 100 songs in these same libraries. And so to me, that is, I mean, and it's 70 votes and 88 votes. So it's not only a few votes, it's quite a number of votes. And it shows you, it doesn't exactly correlate at the top, where 1,000 songs and people are making over $1,000. The 500 plus songs and $500 last week in income, that kind of jibes. But I think it was just interesting that the under $100 equals the same percentage as the under 100 songs that you have out there. So, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can go and check these two polls out on YouTube. But one of them, they both list 1,000. How is your week in music income? And it starts at 1,000 income, and it goes to 500, 250, 100, and then under $100. And then the songs, how many do you have active? Starts at 1,000, over 1,000 songs, over 500 songs, over 250, and over 100, and then under 100. And both polls, the under 100 was exactly 67%. That is just, that's uncanny. And so I thought that was interesting to show off as we have this discussion today about more really is more. And I know that there is another guy I talked to on our Discord, and I don't make his name public, and he doesn't make his name public on our Discord, but we've talked behind the scenes, and I know his real name and his real business and his real numbers. And he is a multi-six-figure a year person, only doing music for libraries and trailers. I think that's pretty much all he does. And brief answering, like every day. It's writing for briefs. If you have to play the briefs game, it's not a long game. It's a short game because they want it today. I get briefs that are often hours long, not days long. And so if I was in Nashville and I set up a recording place every day, and I just said, okay, today I need a song that sounds like the Eagles, I need a song that sounds like this band, I need a song that sounds like this girl, and we would just cut it and make it and turn it in. And if we didn't use it for briefs, we would just use it in our catalog and put it on our Discord like you're doing. But I think that's what this guy is doing. But let me tell you how many tracks this guy has. He has like 2,500 tracks and plus in libraries. And I'm not talking about libraries, just any libraries. I'm talking BMG, Warner Chappell, and other bigger libraries. He's in the biggest ones with the most songs. That's why he makes multiple six figures. That's why he makes I'm pretty sure it's multiple five figures. It might be per BMI check or whatever PRO he's with. But we've talked behind the scenes, and this is someone doing it. This is someone with quantity out there. And just like I said, Wolfgang has got 1,000 songs, and he getting $5,000. And he says it's usually in the thousands of dollars per. Now, even $5,000, if you got $5,000, or even this particular check you got, if you got that every single quarter, I'm not even sure if that would come close to what you make at your job right now.
No. But like you said, like you hear people that say they get a cent or a dollar. It's just the proof of concept. Oh, I can make some money from music. And it's like, okay, so what do I do to multiply that, 2x, 5x, 10x?
Like I said, it's wife proof of concept. Yes, honey, this is going to work. If you trust me. And she's like, I don't know. I like those benefits, and I like that job, and I like that consistency of money that comes in every 2 weeks, because let me tell you, folks, music money does not come every 2 weeks. So I've talked about what I'm hearing from other people who are doing, and how much quantity they have, and how many tracks they have out there. Let's talk a little bit as we finish here and just talk about the goals we have for tracks, track amounts. So let's talk about the goals for where we want to be with this. Where do we want to be with our music career? And let's first talk about our goals for Sync. What's your goals? Because so you're pumping about 400, 500 songs out a year. You're kind of like where I am. It's like I think of 200 songs as the start. I don't think of 200 songs as like, whoa, I'm. It just so happens you've hit it big on some network and cable deals. And I will tell everybody that network, cable, and streaming are completely different animals. You'll be excited to see what that Survivor thing brings off CBS. Have you had other network things before, like
Uh,
major network?
Not promo, only sync in the show.
And
So
and
not
have
not
they paid
promo.
pretty well?
No, it's always been
Obviously
the
not,
40,
because
yeah, the 40, $50.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk, because I got, like I said, had a full minute and 6 seconds on one of the most popular shows on Netflix, and it's made $150 by the time I got it. Although I realized that I split, should have been around $200 probably for my side for that particular quarter. But remember, this is going to go on and on. People watch that show and decide to binge it and all the time. So it
Yeah.
could be a continual source every quarter, and we'll see. And who knows how all of this pays, actually. Nobody really knows how it all pays.
Yeah.
There's nobody says, oh, well, here's the math. If you get played for this many seconds, you'll get exactly this amount. Nobody knows that. But all that said, what are your goals now that you've got a couple of hundred songs out there, a couple 300 songs, and is it just more? I mean, I guess it's just more.
Yeah, so I have a range of goals. Personal goal is on the sync side. Well, and just in general in life, it's to do whatever, and no offense to anyone who's not religious, but do whatever I believe God put me here to do and to serve the people that I believe God put me here to serve. Um, and those people, obviously, family first, and then clients, partners, customers, and to be able to somehow figure out how to make music income uh, be the primary source of income from music on my end. So I do other things other than sync and trailers. That's sort of the lane I'm diving into and leaning more into. I do workshops. I started doing workshops more consistently over the last 2 weeks. Webinars. The first one was composing epic cinematic hip hop music, and the other one was composing Disney
Explain
music.
your seminars, because I saw that workshop. I didn't know what that meant. So does that mean you're doing like Zoom classes, or
Zoom classes. I probably need to explain it better. Zoom classes virtual, and I just share with my Logic
say
Pro, and I
Zoom
start with a
workshops if I were you? That would
Zoom
let people
workshop.
know that it's
What
going
it
to be a
is.
live type of thing.
um, Live Zoom workshop, and I record it so that the way I set it up is you can join the live. The cheapest way to join is the live, and then the next one will be a trailer music workshop or a neoclassical trailer workshop. And then I do sample packs for companies. So this is all just separate sources of income. So to be able to somehow approach what I'm getting full time, income wise from music is sort of the goal there on the music side.
I did have a goal for life, and I am the same way. I am a person who has been involved in the church since I was a kid, and so what God has for me to do and what I want me to do are two things I have to struggle with all the time, because I've been involved in the Christian music industry for 30, 40 years, and but I'm now really more focused on positive music, and just to bring a positiveness to the yuck out there, when there's a lot of yuck out on cable and on TV and stuff like that. And I think it's important for us to bring some kind of light to that world. It is for me. That's kind of my goal. But my goal for Sync is just to increase output. And the way I'm going to be doing that is I just started making the calls yesterday to the guys, to all the fellows up in Nashville. And I said, dudes, we got to get busy. Join with me. And convincing them, I not only have to convince my wife with this proof of concept and show her money that's coming in, and show her things on television. And we watch Love is Blind. She's like, that's your music. But I also have cases to show the players and the engineers that I want to work with me and say, let's band together and do this. And the way I can get a lot more done is I can be having a drummer work on things and a bass player work on things and a guitar player work on things. And I can outsource a lot of work so that I can have, like I said, 5 albums, 10 albums going at a time where I'm not having to do any. of it, other than maybe some roughs on keys, and then I send them off. Or we have tracking sessions where I don't do any of it. I just tell them what I want, and like it's what we did last week. Two of the country songs we did last week are for an album coming up. So that's how I am planning. That's my goals for increasing my sync output. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here, and it's been great talking with you.
Yeah.
And everybody who has been here today, thanks so much for watching, as always. And remember to go to makemusicincome.com/learn and learn stuff. There's free stuff there, tons of free stuff. We're here to teach, we're here to serve, and we were put here to serve. And so we are just both Marcus and I are ready to help, and go, and you'll find Marcus's information right below as well. And you can go over to his channel, look at his workshops and the things he's offering, and go follow his channel because he's putting nuggets up every day, his secrets of success. And so you need to go and follow that. But thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you next time on the Make Music Income podcast. Thanks again, Marcus.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.